Are we teeing up?
We're teeing up.
Oh, look at what is this?
What is that?
What is that?
This isn't a discus. It is pressed tea in the same shape as a discus. And I will unwrap it next week, and you shave off the solid cake of tea and pour boiling water on it. This is...
I've
Isn't
learned
that
so
beautiful?
many things about tea throughout this process. Hello, Graham.
Hey, my darling. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh,
You as well.
I apologize. I apologize right off the top. I shouldn't call you darling. I had a friend of mine who said, don't call her darling. That may be a British thing of yours, but it doesn't go over well in the United States. So...
Welcome back, everyone, to Tea at 3. I'm Faye Schmidt, and this is Graham Kerr. So last week, I brought up the serenity prayer idea that I'd been thinking of. I should have pulled it up so that I actually remembered what it was. But the gist of it is, give me the patience to endure the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that's what we've been thinking about this week, and that's what we'll be talking about. This is Priest River in Idaho. This is where I ended up camping with my friends, and it was like miserable and raining right when we got there, and we're all like bummed out because this place is actually like a water slide, like you could slide down these rocks, but because it had been raining all week, it was way too much water and we didn't get to do it. But the next day ended up being super sunny and beautiful. We got to go canoeing in the lake and it was gorgeous. So my patience paid out, but I also have been learning patience even more so today as I went to open my blinds earlier and they broke off and fell and cut my thumb in 3 places, and I was trying to get tea and make food, and my car is broken, and my best friend just tested positive for COVID. So it's quite the whirlwind I'm living in today.
So tell me what you have understood as you've pondered this. Where do you come off now? Because I know what you were saying last week was you don't really want to go up a river on your own. And so you would take some encouragement with some companionship up the river. And you do want the world to change. So what do you do? How do you start from being patient to doing something that moves towards change? I'm very interested to know what you might be thinking about that.
I think this week more I was trying to discern what attitude I needed when I needed the patience and when I needed the courage to change. And times when it was raining or I cut myself or people are sick, those are not things that I can do anything about. So those are times where I need to have an attitude of patience in order to not go crazy trying to change things I know I can't. Whereas previously when we've been talking about finding places to donate to and informing educating ourselves on problems in the world and those kinds of things are where you can start to cause small change, even being vegetarian, causing small changes in my own life to try and cause positive change in the world.
Yeah. You know, I'm not sure what happened to me at your age, but I know that I wanted to change things, and I didn't know really enough to be able to know what needed to change. So what I did was I took 2 years of my life to examine 72 methods of cooking. There are about 72 basic methods of cooking. So I took 2 years and I compared all of the major ways in which they were done with each other until I came up with a selection for a way to do each of those that I thought made the most sense. All right? So then I wrote a book about that, and that book eventually sold 1 million copies. Now, I didn't at the time even think about that one. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to write that book, and I worked on it until 7, and then I went to work, and then every day I got up at 4, made myself a cup of tea, and tea at 4, and learned something so that I was confident enough in it to know that as far as I was concerned, for good, reasonable purposes, was the best way to do it. Right? And that won a gold medal at Frankfurt International Book Fair, and later on became the Galloping Gourmet Cookbook in the United States. But I had gone nowhere towards that kind of career. All I thought was, I need to know, and I need to decide. Now, I don't think that we should be courageous about flinging ourselves at things that we don't understand. Now, I really think, from your point of view, I've done a certain amount of research, over the last 15 years on climate change. And I'm completely convinced that something needs to be done about it. And needs to be done right now. There's no point in changing. But there are some things that I genuinely feel that I know. And that therefore I can fling myself at it in the assurance that this I believe to be true. And if you believe it to be true, then I think you've got some power to be able to negotiate through the storm that's coming the other way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You realize what it takes. It takes a lot of research. It takes really understanding what it is that you're keen about. And if you're that keen about it, then I think what you can do is help change the world. I really do, but it's going to require doing something. And here, I make no apologies for this. This book here is called Creation Care, and it's done by the Lausanne Committee, and it is really well done by a whole bunch of different people who are looking at this from a creation point of view. And this thing I then read, Inconvenient Facts. This is a rebuttal of everything that book says. When you read these two things, you can start to see the nature of the whitewater through which we as human beings have to pass, because these two things are in strict opposition to each other. And we have to somehow come to the conclusion on what it is that we understand, and that we understand it certainly enough to be able to declare it. And when we declare it, then I think we're moving upstream. I think we have to make a declaration to do that. So learn, understand, select, and then go. Does that make any sense at all to you at the moment?
Yeah, I think that definitely doing all of the research that you can is really important. Yeah. For me, luckily, I've been surrounded by people who are really into that and people that I really trust. And so I've had like people that I trust and know that have done a lot of research, like, and take that knowledge and like boil it down,
right?
Like in conversations with me.
So now you have a group of people with whom you work. You've got friends, and you're of the same mindset. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing as a group? What are you declaring? What kind of movement upriver are you actually involved in? That's
um,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the little changes that I've talked about previously in the show, like um, trying to not buy like single-use items and reusing as many things as I can, and like making shifts in my own life that I can see like the world needing to all do, but like if I can't see myself doing them, then like how can I ask someone else to do them, or like expect someone else to be able to do that in the future? So like that's part of the reason why I don't eat meat or purchase meat, um, is because a lot of the ways in which it's produced are not so good for the environment, and so that's something
Right.
that like I can do in my life that's um, moving towards a goal in the future of like maybe more people. Like if I know that that journey was easier for me because I saw other people starting to do it and how easy it became, and like how many more resources are available now because like one by one people started doing this thing, and now it's like so much more widespread and it can continue to be like moving forward. I wouldn't say that I um, could boil down step by step everything that I'm like fighting for, but I do want to like continue to learn about ways that I can educate myself on like race and injustice, and things that I can do about climate change and like other issues that I have never even heard of, like moving forward.
It's just there's something about life when you're really passionate about it and you put in some homework to be able to marshal your thoughts and then declare those thoughts to another human being. And I think, there's an old verse which says that we should be held to account for every careless word we speak. Now, I don't want to speak careless words. I do really want to put some effort into what it is that I say so that the best I know, it's true. And I think we need truth today in this subject of climate change hugely. We're running out of time. And I think if that's true, then it's so dramatically needed to be able to start to say it to whoever. I don't mind who it is, but when once you've done the research and you've found a way to describe it and you speak it out, it then becomes, you've then moved into the river and you are moving against the torrent coming the other way. I don't care if you don't make much distance, but you're doing something.
I think that because of the people that I'm surrounded by, and maybe the culture that I'm in, maybe just being a young person in the Pacific Northwest, is that like it's the like 95% of the people that I interact with, like climate change is already understood. Like that's never something that I've had to explain. Like everybody around me agrees that it's an issue and that we're all doing something against
Yeah,
it, like to do
yes.
something for it. So I don't know that I've ever needed to boil down that thought in like any sort of like explanative or even so much as like debate kind of way, you know?
And I understand that fully. It, and probably I'm only dealing with personal experience, but I was really struck all week long about this business of knowing the difference between being patient and actually taking some action and with courage and the wisdom to know the difference. And my research in my heart and mind about that one is I had to learn in order to have the wisdom. I actually needed to do more than knee jerk. I actually needed to ponder a lot before I started opening my mouth. Now, this is a book that I think is one of the best books ever written in terms of the way that we eat in the United States. And this man who wrote it David Kessler was a commissioner for the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. And he asked me to come to Washington, D.C. and participate in the creation of the food pyramid, which, is old hat now. This book was written in 2009, all right? And it's streets ahead of anything that's been written since. It's just an amazingly interesting and wonderful book. Once you've read that book and start to explore one's life, you realize, I do know something about this, and it does need to be spoken about. And I think that maybe until we read in depth about the things about which we feel that we know and we're passionate, there doesn't become a stage at which we have the courage to speak. We gain the wisdom until we have the courage. And I just don't think that people should start speaking out when they just don't know very much about it. They're so easily refuted, and the debate is ridiculous. But you have a natural ability to communicate. And I think that you have a passion in you for nature itself. I've learned that for just listening to you. And therefore, the passion with the wisdom will come about with a day when you can speak it forth, where the people who are listening are not your friends, and they're not all doing something about it. They could be doing the opposite. And it's just that I'm old and you're young, and I want the future for you so much. And I see this passion in you. You know the Duke of Edinburgh, when he went to give a speech in Australia, in Sydney, and I was at that speech. And he said, in very British voice, like this, he said, I look around me today and I see all these absolutely stunning young people with so much drive for the future. Gosh, the whole world could be changed by you. Now, my only question is, where did it all go when you became 25? He was actually nailing it pretty well, but about 25, the world takes over and the drama of the day-to-day life takes over, and all this expression of changing the world just goes away. And I don't want to see that happen in your life, and I'd hate to see it happen in somebody's life like your friends as well. You have a drama in you because you know you're going to be living into a season in which this world is definitely going to change. And it'll either change for the worse, or it can maintain some kind of difference which will make it possible for it to survive. And it's going to be in your hands, actually. There's nobody else who's going to do it. It's you. Okay.
I think part of the motivation that I have for doing the things that I do is honestly like a way to like tamper my own anxiety about the future. Like,
okay,
if I do nothing, then I will just like cycle and go crazy. So like little things like not buying paper towels or not buying meat are like ways for me to lessen the anxiety that is like, I don't know if the world's still going to be around in 40 years or whatever. Like, but I do know that like other people have this same drive and I'm not alone, and the world can change. Like, we've been changing more rapidly than we ever have before. So I'm hopeful that like people can move forward and it will still be here, and I'll be a part of it.
Now, now let's get to this river which is behind you, and let's climb up over that nice thing where you slid
Would you
down.
slide down that?
I would love to try. Yes, even though my old bones may be a little bit concerned about that.
You
But
probably could do it here, but right
yeah,
over, where am I? Right over here, there was another waterfall, so we didn't feel like
yeah.
trying to slide because we were scared to fall down the other one. There's a lot
Now
of water.
that is a really good analogy. I love that. It's okay to take on something which seems reasonable, but could that lead to something which is unreasonable?
Yeah.
And that's the difference of the wisdom to be careful, that you only go just so much. I like that.
Yeah, something with like when you're kayaking or rafting, oftentimes you go to the whitewater and like on the road if you can, or hike down to the river and like scout out the rapids to make sure you know like what's ahead and what you're going to be jumping into.
When you go kayaking, how many people generally go with you?
I haven't done a lot of like whitewater kayaking, but my husband is a raft guide and I've gone with him a couple times. Typically, I mean, it's not safe to go by yourself just because
I understand.
it's stuck. Yeah. So you definitely want at least 2 boats, whether or not those are 2 single boats or 2 rafts or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can have more, the better.
I heard from you last time something which has echoed all week with me, and you don't like the idea of going alone. Yeah, that's scary. So I think the more of us who are going upriver, the more comfortable we may feel about that one. And you're already part of an organization where a number of you are feeling the same way. So you're like a shoal and they're going upriver. Now, we're being watched at the present moment by somebody who may be thinking to themselves, well, I'd like to have a go, but I'm on my own. I don't see what I could do on my own. And what I'm wondering about all week is what can we do together? I'm upstream, I know that. I don't have much longer in the river. I can almost see the end of the river in sight. But you have such a wide expanse of that river to travel in, and so do other people as well. So the question is, could we gather? Is it possible to technically gather together and make it upstream together? Could ideas that other people may have as they're sitting watching me, if only you guys would talk about this. Well, what if we had a venue so that they could join us on Zoom? You know, it's all possible nowadays. And just because we're on YouTube, we could go on Zoom and we could have a group of people who would meet after you and I have talked, and we could all gather together and we could talk about what we're going to do to change the world together.
Yeah.
How does that sound okay? Do you know, you got excited last week. I actually saw you get excited about the fact that if we could get some other people going on this one, it would be really exciting. And that got me interested too. So I've been looking into how we could do that. Okay, so did you think about the title Upstreaming?
I did. It's hard to change a title once you've already started something, but I guess this is still kind of a small something. I like Tea at 3 because it's cozy and unassuming, whereas like it's something that can draw people in and then like lead into them participating in this conversation with us. I think that it would be cool to have like a subtitle, like Tea at 3 Upstreaming or something like that.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
No, I really do. I've pondered it all week and I don't like it either. I agree with Tea at 3. And I also agree with the idea of a reading line underneath upstreaming, maybe even the word upstreaming to resilience. You know, it just what are we doing? Would we like people to be resilient and nature to be resilient? Would we like the world to bounce again? I think we both very much want that.
Yeah.
So upstreaming to resilience could be the reading line under, whatever. By the way, look what Ruth made for me.
Hey.
One of those painted
Oh,
stuff.
that's
Isn't that
great.
wonderful?
My grandma
Isn't
painted
it?
that and she sent it to you.
Yes, that's
Great.
right. Her
I
stones
love
are
that
all
she does
over the
that.
place. Yes, isn't that wonderful?
She hides them everywhere.
I know it's I just. She's written on the back: ability to respond, absorb, and adapt to as well as recover in a disruptive event. Is resilience.
I love that.
Isn't that neat? And so that when I think of our economy and everything else at the moment that's going on, the ability that we have to flow over the top of that, slide down, if you will, and then overcome it and reach a stage of the river which is flat and calm again, and we can make progress. It feels so good. So if we could think about how that might happen, so that you and I could keep talking about our personal attitudes towards things, and then we could say, hey, let's meet at such and such a time, and say, here's the link, and just press the link and join us, and then we can talk about this together. Wouldn't that be exciting? I'm so well. So we're not going to do it, but we're going to ponder it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So, my dear, I think it's my turn for pondering and what we should ponder for the week. So what I'd love to ponder is just a little extension on what we've been talking about. I've seen your eyes light up at the idea that we could get some other people who feel like we do. It doesn't need to be many, but who want to jump into the river with us and go upstream with us. And I think that there's got to be a way that the media can do this, that your technology can do it, like Zoom or something like that. So you and I could chat. And then after we chatted about it, then we could say, hey, here's the link. We're going to have a live chat at this time. And if you'd want to join us, we'd love to have you. And let's go upstream together. So,
yeah, I think that we can definitely figure out how to make that happen in some way. It'll probably take a bit of work, but that can definitely happen. We can be thinking also this week about like the importance of bringing other people into a conversation and getting other people's points of views and having that like diversity of opinion and experience in this, whatever this thing is, whatever we're doing here. But I think that's having the perspective of the people around you is important in most anything that you do. So especially in something that's public and does involve other people. So that is
and involves our future.
Yeah.
Good. That's wonderful. Can I just beg? Can I just talk to them just for a moment, direct, and I'll come right back to you. Okay. If it's possible that you think at this moment that this would be a good idea, and you'd ponder that during the week, would you mind putting a comment down below? The fact that you'd like to join in, because we need to know whether this is something we should do, and you're the only one who can really let us know for sure. Thanks so much. Okay, my dear, back to you.
Yeah, so we'll be thinking about that this week, and we will get back to you next week. This has been Tea at 3. I'm Faye Schmidt. This is Graham Kerr. See you next week. And I always forget, but please, along with leaving your comment down below, if you could like this video if you enjoyed watching, and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.
Are we teeing up?
We're teeing up.
She's...
pouring water into my mug so it looks like it's full.
We're teeing up.
Okay.
It's 7 o'clock.